Hi, this is Jim Bruce, and I'm presenting a hot topic for online education in K-12 on behalf of Heather Wooden and myself for EDUC 590, University of La Verne, April 2019. Heather and I approached this assignment in parallel and cooperating and talking quite a bit about what we were both looking to learn. Um, she approached it with three overarching questions, and I had two overarching questions. We both ultimately ended up with four studies each for general questions and an interview at a peer level. From Heather's perspective, the questions she wanted to look at were from a parent's perspective. Is a virtual classroom the best choice for a gifted student, for a special needs student? And as a parent, what can we expect of a student in a virtual classroom? So is a virtual classroom the best choice for your gifted student? To determine this, a parent needs to assess their student for the prerequisite skills necessary for success in a virtual classroom. Here are a number of those prerequisite skills. And those that do possess these skills can be very successful as online learners and advanced at a much faster rate than they would in a traditional classroom due to a more flexible curriculum that can be adapted to ultimately challenge them. Now, would a special needs student be better off in a virtual classroom? Students with IEPs are less likely to be successful in an online-only learning environment because there are fewer resources available to their individual needs, and in some cases, the IEP adaptations cannot be properly met in an online format. There's a quote here, ultimately, regarding researchers Rice and Allen and even Smith supporting this idea. Now, there's less one-on-one interaction because of the teacher and student relationship, and there's no peer support or modeling in either a social or educational situations in a virtual classroom. What can I expect as a parent of a student in a virtual classroom? Now, parents of online students can expect to see a steep increase in their responsibilities with few parent resources to guide them. The researchers here at Basham found that while it seemed relatively easy for parents to enroll students with disabilities in online courses, there was little policy guidance aimed at clarifying special education placement and services in these online environments. So parents become the de facto teacher, interpreting the curriculum, assessing the student work, keeping students on schedule, communicating with the online instruction, and often they're really unprepared, but they're ultimately doing the work. So unlike teachers, the average parent lacks the prior training, which is really a requirement in this environment. And they also lack the support that would be available to teachers in the form of PLCs that address the missing targets and objectives. So this is an excerpt from an interview with Nicole Webb, who's a principal for the Mojave River Academy. It's K-12. It's an independent study school. 3 questions. How many online students does she have? Well, there are only 6 students out of 350. Each student was selected and invited to do the online program based on transcripts and performance in regular school. The A to G track students are the ones invited to join the online classes. Are any of the online learners special needs students? No. They wouldn't put them in the class if there was an IEP in our place. They said that their program is already modified to students' IEPs. Accommodations wouldn't be met as needed with the curriculum provided by the online program. And what do you, as the instructor, do to modify your teaching methods for the online coursework? And they have digital projects as opposed to physical project, different curriculum than they use. But the curriculum is provided by a Fresno Office of Education through a program called Cyber High, and it's part of their weekly appointment. Is used to teach new online tools, and no textbook or workbooks are used. So here's a little online activity. How hard could it be for a parent to find a quality online K-12 program? Go ahead and pause things here. Take a moment to go out and check Google and see what you can find and search for a fully online K-12 program. And when you come back, we're going to ask, want you to reflect on it on your own. Were you able to find an accredited program? How do you know it was accredited? Is it available to parents or only educational institutions for purchase? And how did the SARC measure up? If you couldn't find a SARC, it was blank. Check it out here at CASCH OOL-dashboard.org. California School-dashboard.org. From an educator's perspective, what are the themes of the most recent research limited to 4 studies? Ultimately, the top 4 articles out there in research within the last year are addressing these 4 questions. What engages online students? Do learning management systems like Blackboard work? What aspects of tech acceptance affect the retentions of students as customers? And what do learners value in online education? The other question beyond that was, what were the themes of an interview that I conducted with 2 of my partners from last year, who I had discussed a lot of curriculum creation with during my credentialing internship. So, what ultimately engages students? First question, Bigetel and Pennsylvania, or Pennsylvania is really a typo there. Predictions of instructor practices and course activities to engage online students. There were 12 themes that really emerged, but the top 3 are this. Students were able to share knowledge and expertise within their learning community. They got to talk about themselves. They felt heard. There was a great deal of variety in the types of computer technology that were used to communicate. And the learning occurred due to a meaningful and challenging activity about which they engaged. Again, there are more, but those are the top 3. So do learning management systems, or LMS, like Blackboard work? And ultimately, there's another topic here, which is they said that it's already established that practice works. Do homework systems help you do that? And the answer is yes. So left to their own devices, this is the homework grade, and this is a singular exam at the end of the coursework. So you can see there's poor performance in both. Then the real test is, does this online homework system work? But in between, they give the kids a spreadsheet. They say, okay, here's 78% versus 54%. So that little Excel spreadsheet improved homework compliance and improved test grades. And then this big new homework management system that they're ultimately testing in the study, 86% versus the original 54, and 68 versus the original 50. So it's a marked improvement, and so there is evidence to support that yes, these LMS do work. What aspects of the tech acceptance affect retention of students? This one's a little bit cumbersome with 5 heady points, but really the top number here, 70% of the students roughly were confirmed in the intention to continue a course by the acceptance of 3 factors. So basically this, if in the beginning kids said they were going to continue with the course, and then they ultimately do, there's these 3 factors that are there in 70% of the kids. 70% of the students show these 3 relationships. There's positive performance in the class, which means you think you're doing well. There's high information quality. You can tell that the quality of information you're getting is of good value. And hedonic motivation. You have an intrinsic self-interest in why you were doing this. It could be because, in this case, these are adults who are trying to get an advancement in a job or to continue teaching, so they're getting continuing education. So there's an external reason for why they're doing it, not just the pursuit of a degree on some level. Next, what do learners value in online education? Another study here done by Zalan and Lee. This is from an emerging markets perspective, and it's interesting because this is coming to us in the midst of Dubai, which is where this is happening, what they call the MENA region, ultimately the Gulf. But it's important because everything today, really, as it relates to education, is sort of an emerging market, frankly. And so they come up with this idea here, which shouldn't be foreign, but the idea is that a blended learning model is ultimately the best thing overall, based on their cultural context and the things that they need to address in their learning environment. But it seems that there's a blend there for us as well, that we have similar needs. There's some things that we do well with online, including the LMS component, but there are things about having an individual that you can relate with, this knowledgeable other. Again, back to Vygotsky and some of our prior studies this quarter. So what are the themes of an interview with my peers from last year? The first one was, when I asked them about online education, was that Betsy DeVos, if she ultimately has her way, everything would be online. And we had the experience last year with some examples of LMS. One of my peers built his own using Excel because he was very familiar with gaming. Um, then the learning management system for one other peer was when he was actually enrolled in school. Um, he also is aware of what's there at the district level and does use it, and it's really more of a tool for getting compliance for kids because the parents follow it. There is some part of an LMS that's there in STEM scopes, but it's not being used really heavily. But it's not being seen as a hard and fast um, framework to operate from. There seems to be more flexibility there on the part of this particular teacher in how to determine when things are due and what's going on. However, both teachers had experienced some VR and some augmented reality, and before they really didn't see how online education was going to take off, and now they both are fully committed in going down that path, that they really do believe that online education is the future of education. Our research here shows that it's obviously going to be some sort of blended opportunity, especially in the context of special education. So in conclusion, things are definitely shifting. We're still in a place of limbo. We're all still kind of emerging right now, but studies show that there's pros and cons to a full online education. Some kids excel and be great. And there's some prerequisite skills it looks like they've got to have versus the traditional bricks and mortar. Additionally, much of the work that would traditionally fall on the teachers does transfer to parents, and that's some of the reason for the success ultimately, because that's some of the challenge we have generally in classrooms of the traditional form. And students ultimately who are in traditional classrooms or in a blended learning environment, they perform better when we're provided with online tools. They're given some help and to guide their learning, but still receiving a teacher and peer support in a classroom situation. So online learning is a tool rather than a replacement to a traditional classroom education. And that seems to be the path that we're recommending we follow. Here are our references. And thank you very much for watching our presentation. Look forward to watching all of you.